the Agile brand.
Welcome to the B2B Agility Podcast, where we look at the factors that drive success in B2B marketing, with a focus on the people, processes, data, and platforms that make B2B brands stand out and thrive in a competitive marketplace. I'm your host, Greg Kihlstrom, advising Fortune 1000 brands on MarTech, marketing operations, and CX, best-selling author and speaker. Now let's get on to the show. If you could fix one thing about your customer experience, what would it be and why? Agility requires a deep understanding of evolving customer expectations and the ability to adapt quickly to meet those needs, especially in the complex B2B landscape. It also demands breaking down silos between marketing, sales, and customer service to create a unified customer journey. Today, we're going to talk about the nuances of B2B customer experience, particularly within a large organization like an insurance company, and how it compares and contrasts in the B2C world. To help me discuss this topic, I'd like to welcome Rajesh Sankaran, SVP of Ecommerce at Amax Insurance. Rajesh, welcome to the show.
Hey, Greg, nice to be here.
Yeah, looking forward to talking about this with you. Before we dive in, though, why don't you give a little background on yourself and your role at Amax Insurance?
Sure. With Amax Insurance, I work on the e-commerce side. So we work with, first, let me start with a couple of lines about Amax, and then I'll talk about me. Amax has been in business for over 20 years. We have primary locations of business in Texas and California, and we have a couple of brands, one of them being our Amax Commercial brand as well. So we have the Amax Commercial currently operates as preferred insurance, and we're doing some work on the Amax Commercial brand as well. And then we have about 250 stores between Texas and California. I've been with Amax just over 4 years, and I've been in consulting my whole life. So during the process of a lot of consulting, I worked with Accenture, HP, EDS, and some of my own, and so on and so forth. As part of that, I've spent a lot of time at different insurance companies, which gives me a unique perspective of the insurance world as I was on the other side, and now I'm in the business side here. So I'm able to marry the both and say, okay, now what is changing, what is different, what can we do different? So it helps bridge that gap being on the other side to where we are now.
Yeah, definitely gives you a good set of perspectives and a diverse perspective there. So yeah, let's dive in here, and I want to start by talking about, so this is a B2B show. We talk a lot about B2B. Those listening out there may also be familiar with B2C, but Amax Insurance is a company that works in both B2B and B2C. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are talking about the convergence of B2B and B2C customer expectations. Mm-hmm. They always say, B2B customers are B2C consumers after they clock out or whatever. So, some of those expectations from the consumer world are bleeding over into B2B. Mm-hmm. In your view, what are the core similarities between B2B and B2C CX, and also where do they fundamentally differ?
I think you're spot on, right? Every B2B customer in their off hours are B2C customers. So fundamentally, everybody wants if you had heard any of my previous podcasts, fundamentally the world's changed because of our Starbucks and Netflixes. So regardless of whether you're talking for yourself or you're a customer, you want that same B2B experience that you have as a B2C customer. So what we focus on and what a customer wants is that cool experience they work with. And they don't care if it comes from an insurance company or Starbucks. They want star points. They want their next episode in 30 seconds. That experience is what is driving the world now. Both customers want that value, and both customers, B2B and B2C, want that long-term relationship. That personalization and how we collect the continuous feedback and are able to provide that service differentiated is the converging or diverging point between the experiences, right? So for a company, I have to work with a company regardless of whether I'm talking to an IT person, business person, or our favorite contract managers, versus building that relationship with the individual consumer. My data-driven decisions or decisions based on data that we collect is slightly different, but generally similar, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. So, because Amax Insurance deals with both a B2C and a B2B customers, how do you see the approach to CX differing in terms of things like purchase complexity, maybe relationship duration? There are some differences there. So, how does a company like that approach CX when there are some, fundamental at the business or product level even?
Yeah. Our customers on the B2C side, we work with non-standard customers, which is for more people. It's like the subprime market, if you will. So these customers are very transient in nature. So B2C customers are tougher to retain. And it's a big focus for us is retention of these customers. They will change carriers. They will do some of the things that they do for $3 difference in payment. But again, they are looking at, am I putting food on the table or am I paying for insurance? And nobody cares for insurance anyway. But on the B2C side, we want them to have a different relationship with us because they tend to stay longer, their nature and how we personalize the experience with them. And for us also, since we are a big agency, we are also working with a number of carriers and brokers, big brokers, to be able to get that information and pass it on to the customer. So our agents need to understand very clearly the difference between working with a contractor to a large customer to somebody that's a dentist that has 10 offices. So there is a lot of difference that the agents have to go through and understand. And for the most part, it's not the same agents that work with B2C and B2B. So they're trained differently. Their focus is different. We give them a lot more tools, slightly different tools than each other to sort of bridge that gap between the two segments.
Yeah, yeah. What I've seen in, successful customer experience within organizations has alignment between different teams. So, and I think there's marketing, there's sales, there's customer service, there's all kinds of alignments that can benefit both the organization and the customer. But I want to talk a little bit about some of that alignment. And, so how does your team from a customer experience perspective collaborate with teams like sales or even marketing to ensure a seamless customer experience? And what are some of the KPIs that you track to measure the effectiveness of the collaboration?
What alignment are you talking about? They depends on which day of the week you ask them, they're aligned or not aligned, right?
Right.
Generally, I think we feel like sales and marketing are quite aligned, regardless of whether it's again B2B or B2C. On the B2C side, I think there is probably a lot more, I shouldn't say a lot more alignment, lot less confusion on the B2B side because it's very similar. Our customer nature does not change tomorrow morning. Christmas doesn't affect customer behavior that much. A business is a business and they're going to have insurance and they're going to keep it and they're going to renew it. And the life cycle is slightly different. Where we see a lot of value is the same KPIs can be effectively measured between the two. And the collaboration will help us with, hey, what are the types of customers, right? What are the types of segments that customers fall in? And a lot of that is on the B2C side, helped by the NACES codes and some of the industry things that we have that we can leverage. And knowing about the customer's business, understanding the business, forecasting. If a body shop is insured by us, or if a restaurant is insured by us and they say, hey, we're going to now start selling liquor, we know already enough to let that restaurant know, hey, by the way, here are the things that you need to look for. Or if it's a home-based bakery, our agents will say, hey, does your customer pick up from you? Do they walk into your property? We will educate the customer on things. And when we do marketing, the salespeople will do this. But when we do marketing, the marketing material will include some of these nuggets of how do I help you? And the value add is there. It's not like, hey, I want to sell you a policy and I want to sell it to you and this is the down payment. That's not
Yeah.
how it works.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds like also that requires understanding a lot of different types of business. If you offer insurance and products to a lot of different types of businesses, those salespeople, at the very least, if not the marketing folks as well, need to really understand the, a lot of nuances of the difference between, the needs of a bakery versus a body shop, or whatever.
Mhm.
Where do you see maybe the biggest challenges in alignment and marketing and sales around CX, and particularly in B2B again, and what strategies have you found effective in overcoming them?
Yeah, in the B2B world, where we see the, I don't know that if it's a big challenge, but it is a challenge in not quite aligning marketing and sales, but sales almost needs to wrap their head around some of why marketing activities happen in a way. Salespeople don't care how you do lead gen, as an example, right? It's hard to explain to a core seller what my top of the funnel is, what my bottom of the funnel is, and how I do MQL and SQL. It's not the same. The lead gen activities, I think, is one of the areas where we will need constant education for the salespeople, and why and how we can do some of that. That's one area. The other area, I think, is a good, it's more education, right? What are the marketing materials? How can we help you with generating marketing materials? If you're saying, hey, I'm a salespeople, we are running this promotion, they can't run the promotion without getting completely aligned with marketing. So
Yeah.
developing those landing pages, as an example, that makes sense for customers, that makes sense for these experience for them online and or on the phone, scripted material, giving them, if the agent just wants to send text messages to customers and they free form it, most of the times it don't end well. So giving them structured
Yeah.
information and say, hey, use this and this as your template for reminders, use this and this as your template for payment reminders. So that type of stuff is where there is a little bit of I don't know if there is even a challenge, but it's definitely consistent reiteration of the need for alignment.
Yeah, yeah. It requires coordination so that the customer has customers don't really care or understand how the process is made. They just want that seamless experience. So, that seamless experience requires a lot of coordination on the
And
on the
one
inside.
thing we've recently done to our websites is we understand, hey, a lot of customers that are particular, I'm just talking about B2B, right? That want, it's a very simple request in their mind. Hey, I want my certificate of insurance. They'll say, hey, they'll call and say, I want my certificate of insurance. Then they go to the website, click, I want certificate of insurance. It gets frustrating to the customer sometimes why we ask so many questions. Hey, do you need me to add somebody else to it? Do
Mhm.
it. All these questions, right? When we put them in the form and we think of the flow of how we generate the form, then the agents go, oh, this makes sense why we should do it this way. Versus if we just put every phone call into the agent without a form fill, they're going to spend a lot more time on the phones just dealing with certificate of insurance. It's like simple things. As we learn and grow, we make sure that it's a process that is customer friendly and easy to navigate.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. So back to, what I mentioned at the very top of the show, and what we touched on a little bit is, are you seeing that B2B customers are really expecting that B2C, like, the Netflix, the Starbucks, the Amazon, and what does that mean in terms of when a company like yours is adapting strategies? What, particularly, digital engagement, personalization, like, how does that expectation kind of shape the way you think about strategies?
I think 100% the expectation is changing. Small businesses, artisan businesses, which is our primary, probably our sweet spot. Maybe their expectation is just a little bit tamed compared to other areas. So we're somewhat lucky still in that regard. But the expectation about Starbucks and Prime and all that is still there as a human being for everyone. So the
Yeah.
decision making complexity probably is the biggest difference between B2C and B2B. Our personalization approach with B2B customers is evolving because not every product that we sell that we are able to provide to the customer has that same level of flexibility, right? We still need to collect information. We still need to work with the online purchasing for B2B customers is not there to do everything on the click of a button. So we have to collect information. We got to do some due diligence and we have to come back to them with that, which this is why the building that strong relationship, more strategic relationship over time is that big difference. And it's the nature of the business. Some of the B2B transactions end up becoming transactional. Some of them have a really strong relationship. They want to call and they want to talk to that particular agent that they have serviced them for years. And some of them don't care. Hey, I just want my policy and I want to keep renewing it. Don't talk to me. So there is a difference between the two, but the changing ecosystem certainly it's a constant everywhere. In every aspect of the business, we're trying to see how much can we introduce a little bit of automation, a little bit of value add to the customer. Hey, by the way, customer, your payment renewal date is coming up or policy renewal is coming up. You got to pay for this. Or by the way, there's a new product we've added to our list. Do you want me to run that quote for you as well? So we got to get in front of these customers on the B2B to a certain extent.
Yeah, yeah. Beyond that, that concept of the B2C expectation and B2B, what other trends are you seeing in B2B customer experience, and how are some of these trends influencing your long-term CX strategy?
There is this, I've heard of this little thing called AI that's popped up everywhere now.
Right. I think I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we want sales leaders, as digital leaders, as CX leaders. I think our constant struggle is how do we take advantage of what's out there? How do we take advantage of it more responsibly? How do we make sure it seamlessly works with everything else? Then, of course, as we've discussed, personalization, blending the channels, right? Seamless integration of all the channels that we can service them with, from a phone call to a text message to online chatting to walk-in. Everybody needs all of that. And there are some people that absolutely don't want to talk to a human being. So we're developing and enhancing our self-service capability. And one of the, I think, biggest changes that we're seeing in the B2B space is all the startups that are popping up, and the millennials to Gen Zs to whoever this new generation is, the CEOs and CFOs that are in their 20s want to have a completely different type of interaction with other businesses. I read somewhere, I think 64% of the current buyers are millennials. So we have to think about, okay, my 60-year-old sales leader cannot possibly easily wrap his head around how do I service a customer who is 25 years old.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's probably some of the shifting that we're doing, and we're doing a decent job of it.
Yeah. So in terms of measurement, then, how do you look at measuring B2B CX success? There's obviously a lot of traditional metrics and potentially some newer ways of doing it. What's your approach there?
Yeah, collecting customer feedback, right? I mean, be it CSAT or NPS or any of that, or asking straight up, right? Hey, customer, how did I do for you? Can we work with you further? Any of these types of surveys, or a simple one text, hey, how did we do? Can you give me some feedback? So that still is happening. And then we have, of course, phone calls are being heard, and AI analyzes phone calls with agents and customers, and that gives us some feedback. I think there are lots of good nuggets of information we get from that we leverage that, and we use basically that to turn that into training material for agents. So that's a enhancement that has come around because of AI, and every meeting is transcribed and heard and received, and instant feedback for salespeople. And then the other thing that we're trying to do, I don't think we've cracked that code 100%, is activating those promoters of our brand, right? We got to get to the point where that becomes a really, really, I think we're getting there, but we want to make that part of the flywheel, and that part of that flywheel has to take off. And activating the promoters is probably one of the key things that we are focused on.
Yeah. Yeah, love it. Well, Rajesh, thanks so much for joining today. Definitely, always good to talk through this and hear, real world how this is being done. Really appreciate your insights. I got one last question for you. I like to ask everybody here, what do you do to stay agile in your role, and how do you find a way to do it consistently?
I golf a lot. No, just kidding. No, I think I read books, listen to podcasts, networking, and hey, friend of a friend did this. Do you know this? So it's definitely a lot of word of mouth and reading and keeping up with this through conferences and so on. I don't think there is one easy answer to that, but it's everywhere. There is an inflow of information, and how do you distill it and process what you want is the key.
Yeah. Yeah, love it. Well, again, I'd like to thank Rajesh Sankaran, SVP of Ecommerce at Amax Insurance, for joining the show. You can learn more about Rajesh and Amax Insurance by following the links in the show notes. Thanks again for listening to the B2B Agility Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to subscribe and leave us a rating so that others can find the show more easily. You can access more episodes of the show at www.b2bagility.com. That's B2bagility.com. While you're there, check out my series of best-selling Agile brand guides covering a wide variety of marketing technology topics, or you can search for Greg Kihlstrom on Amazon. Until next time, stay focused and stay agile.
The Agile brand.